Preacher, Episode 8, El Valero. I like this episode. It was pretty crazy. That's my dad in this truck going to work. I really like this episode. I thought it was actually very cool. Very surprising. Like, a lot of weird stuff happened in this episode that I was not expecting. So, we get the opening, which we have in a bunch of the episodes where it's just like, I don't really know what's going on here. It's just some people going to ski, and then they drop out of the, or well, they don't drop out, but the cable snaps, the cable car just drops, they all die, all these people die. Apparently all of these people were family of Quincannon, so he calls Jesse's dad, which we go back to that flashback from the last episode, and all this stuff happens, they die, and all their bodies apparently get sent to Quincannon, so he's just effed up, and he's like, okay, so you as a preacher, you can tell me, you can help me with this question I've had all this time. You and God can tell me the answer. What's the difference? And he just holds up intestines. It's like, which one's the cow and which one's my daughter? And he's like, exactly, I can't tell. I've been here for hours trying to figure this out. And he just snapped, and it's like, you need to denounce God and stuff. And it was a crazy thing. And it really makes me wonder, like, I figured that those guys were Quincannon's people anyway. Like, that's just what I thought, because it was Quincannon, because they had that argument. And he seemed like the person that would kind of snap and go crazy a little bit. So, this kind of makes me feel even more so that, I don't know why, but it makes me feel like even more so that those may have been Quincannon's men. And that technically doesn't make much sense, because he's just a preacher. Like, him not denouncing God shouldn't lead someone to sending guys over to kill him. But it's just Quincannon as a character is kind of like, I don't really know. It's a little hard for me to instantly say, like, he wouldn't do that because it's Quincannon. But I mean, kind of in between there. But it just kind of pushed it a little bit more for me personally that those were probably his guys. But we get that scene, and it was a really crazy moment, and we get to see why he's so non-religious, like what he is truly all about. And we kind of get that again at the very end of the episode when Jesse's going through this whole thing, and he's like, I just don't understand what happened. And it's like, I told you to serve God. And we actually get the answer as to how he went from serve God to all this craziness and killing those people. And I still don't understand why he killed those people. That was just crazy. But how he went from that to, the whole church thing. And it's like, I am serving God. I'm serving the God of meat. And it was weird to say it that way, but it's basically the God of tangible, things that you can see and feel. Basically just, a God that is there. And it's kind of within him because he sees it. So it's kind of a different version of what normal people would say is God, I guess. So it was cool to actually get that answer at the very end of the episode after all this, like, sheer insanity. The whole episode was just weird with him being out there. They're just waiting out all day long. They're just waiting and waiting and waiting. They're like, oh, we should get lunch. And he has, like, his assistant with, like, the whole setup, too. The whole little meat thing, like, she's in a deli. And she's just slicing meat and making them sandwiches and stuff with mustard. And I'm like, this is really weird. They, like, everyone, like, got their families out and everyone's just relaxing. And the one douchey guy whose name I seriously don't care to know because I hate him as a character. But, he's like sees his wife and stuff and he waves to her. And that was a crazy scene because I was so surprised when he came back. And I figured it was him. Once they did the scene, I was like, it's probably going to be him. The first person I thought it was, admittedly, was Cassidy. It was going to be him finally healed and he would be coming back at the very end of the episode. But it ends up being the other guy. I'm like, okay. I definitely thought he killed himself, and I didn't know what was going on. I was like, honestly, when it first happened, I was like, is this some weird residual effect of the power or something, where it kind of went over him again, like the spell kind of reactivated for some reason, I don't know, and went to the final step or something. But we find out that the reason he did that was to deafen himself, which really he'd be deaf, period. Like, there would be no, like, oh, ringing in his ear. Well, I'm sure it'd be ringing, I don't really know. But he would be deaf, period, because he shot within a trunk, and it's a metal case. Like, there's a story that I know, it's super nerdy, but I know it from Terminator, where Linda Hamilton, who played Sarah Connor, she went deaf in one of her ears because during that scene in Terminator 2, when the T-800 is shooting up at the T-1000 in the elevator, it's still inside of an elevator, so even if it's just like blanks and all that stuff, it's still the same sound effect crammed into that little metallic space, bouncing all around. And she went deaf from that because she forgot her earphones or her earplugs. He'd be deaf. Like, there is no reason that in the next episode he should have any sort of hearing. He should be deaf because he put the trunk down on his head and he's in this tiny little space and his ears were clearly bleeding. He should be like 100% deaf. There should be, unless they use like future technology on his ears, he should not hear a single thing for the rest of this series. But I feel like he'll be fine. It'll be like a couple episodes down the line and it'll be like, oh yeah, I'm totally fine. I just know for a fact that does not work. It does not work like that, and he should be deaf forever. But I just wanted to throw that out there because I was like, that wouldn't be a temporary solution. He would have deafened himself permanently, and it saved him in this episode because he was like, oh, I can't hear you, so he didn't have to put the gun down. But I'm like, he did that as like a mini plan, but that's permanent. Like, he's deaf, period. But that's not how it's gonna be. So just that kind of bugged me because I'm like, I know this is gonna end up being temporary, and if it's not, then I will have huge praise. Like, it'll be huge props for the show, as far as I'm concerned, for actually doing that, where like he's permanently deaf, or at least incredibly hard of hearing, and they have to use like I can't think of what the heck I'm trying to think of. Not earphones. Whatever they're called, I can't even think of it. Hearing aids. I couldn't think of that. My girlfriend has one, and I'm like, I can't think of what those are called whatsoever. But if they have them use hearing aids, I'm like, okay, that'll make a bit more sense. But it was a crazy moment because of course I thought he was dead, and it basically knocked him out because they did the whole thing with his feet, like he shot himself in the head. But it worked, and he got his gun and everything, and Jesse kind of gave up. I thought honestly that with Jesse's skill he could have. I thought he was gonna turn to him because he was kind of looking away and was just like he deafened himself, and I can't really do anything else. I can't just tell him what to do. And he turned to look at him. I thought he was just gonna move the gun and just like punch him and knock him down or something, do like some judo stuff or something. I'm like, he easily could have too, clearly, but he gave up at the end, and then we get kind of the revelation, and then like I said before all that, the craziness with everyone just having like a picnic and stuff, and people going out there like, man, I hope there's more shooting and stuff like that. And the sheriff wasn't doing anything. They had the early on scene, which was just sheer insanity. When Jesse was shooting at everybody, he's shooting caps off people's heads and stuff. And the one guy was like, not only can the preacher fight, but he can shoot. And he shot the machete out of his hand, and it flew and stabbed another guy in the arm. And then the one dude's like, food court, and he shot the guy's dick off, and it was insane. I was like, I can't believe that. Like, as soon as they showed him alive, and he was walking, like, he was holding his stomach, even before that, like, I was, like, as soon as they showed that, I didn't even see his pants yet. I was like, he shot him in the dick, because, like, I don't know, I could just tell. And he comes out, and I guess technically, when I first saw him, I thought he did get shot in the stomach, because I thought he just killed him initially, like, oh, he actually just killed him because he was too close, and he couldn't do, like, a pinpoint shot, which, of course, he did, like, a magical shot, shooting the guy in the penis. But him coming out, I was like, oh, he shot him in the stomach, which I thought was really weird, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense that he's just walking holding his stomach, because that would have, like, considering the weapon he was using at such close range, that would have gone right through him. And then, of course, everything else, I was like, yep, he shot his dick clean off, and he's holding it in his hands. And it was just crazy. And he was super calm. He was in shock, clearly, but he was super calm. It was like, yeah, preacher shot my dick off. And just the way he said it was so funny to me, because it was like, very nonchalant, because he wasn't, like, insanely calm. It was, like, kind of just simple, like, yep, preacher shot my dick off. And it just made me laugh how calmly he said it. It's like, look at it. And he was like, oh, look at the little guy. And then once he was on the stretcher, I think that's when it kind of snapped, and he flipped out and was screaming. And I don't know why they did that, but they had the woman, she was like, here's your penis, and she put it right on his crotch. Like, of course that's gonna hurt, but it was just so funny. And it was just another part of the craziness, and like him beating up all the guys early on in the episode. They were like, he came out of nowhere, and he basically beat them all up and took all their guns. So that was crazy. And then after that happens, we seemingly have Eugene come back to life, which we find out sadly didn't actually happen, because that really shocked me. I was like, oh, he actually came back, and then they did it pretty fast, where it's like, you know, he wasn't actually there, and I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. So it was interesting. Like it was like, all right, so he's seeing Eugene, which I assume was a part of kind of the Genesis, you know, kind of messing with him a little bit. It was sort of messing with him, stuff like that. So it was interesting, him kind of dealing with that and things. And then, you know, he actually has the angels come back to him, and they actually take it out. It was surprising that that went the way it did. And then, of course, it ends up going back by the end. But they do the song and everything, and it's like, oh man, this is really gonna hurt and everything. And it's just like, got it. And then he like shook it. I was like, oh sweet, like basically that was it. And it's like, oh, cool, we're done. And then of course they made him really mad. They made Jesse really mad, because they were like, oh, we didn't have to help you, and we aren't clearly. And then I guess Genesis just really wanted him, because it could actually, you know, exist within his body and be used. So it clearly wanted to be within Jesse. And they, as they were walking out, I don't remember their names exactly, but the shorter guy, he was like, so the other plan, and the other guy was like, yeah. So I'm guessing they're coming back in the next episode to either chop them up, or maybe their next plan is to actually go to hell, because they're dressed up and stuff, and they meet this random person, and it's all red and stuff. So I think that was a bit of symbolism, where it's like, oh, we want to go somewhere further south. So I'm assuming that means they want to go to hell, and their plan is to actually get Eugene and bring him back, and then that way they can convince Preacher again if there's another coffee can, which I don't know if that was like a super specific coffee can or what the deal was, but maybe they can convince him to kind of give up the power again, and they won't actually try to, you know, chop him up. So it's one or the other, because it could be the chopping up thing, or it could actually be they'll just go to hell and get Eugene to try to convince him to calm down and not like use his power like a crazy person again. So we'll have to just wait and see about that in the next episode. But really enjoyed this one. It did suck that Eugene didn't actually come back out of hell, but crazy, crazy episode going through all that. We got to learn a bit more about Quincannon. I was wrong about him dying in this one, because I was talking about all the stuff with him having a guest starring role. I just really thought he'd die in this episode. Like, they did go through all this madness, and he'd end up getting killed. But we still haven't seen that happen yet, so we're still going to have to wait for it. And then we kind of have our other little story that was going on, which I was so curious. The whole episode I was like, what's going on with this story? And it's Tulip buying this dog. And I was like, I don't know why she got this dog. And then, you know, partly through it, I was kind of like, maybe she got it for her uncle, because, you know, it would be some way to kind of distract him a little bit from drinking. Maybe it would be something that, you know, kind of help him out. And it goes through the whole episode. It's really simple. It's like she gets this dog. It's super random. She's playing with the dog. She's throwing the ball and everything, and she's you know, like hugging the dog and stuff like that. And then she's like, you know, damn you, Jesse Custer. And as soon as, like, she gets up and she walks, and I was like, oh, that's effed up. Like, as soon as they showed the hallway, I was like, oh, that's messed up, because I knew she was going to Cassidy. I was like, well, it's cool that he's alive, but obviously she had to do the dog thing to kind of get him back to full health. Now, all I was thinking was like, man, couldn't she just, like, cut her finger a little bit and just drop a bunch of blood in a cup, or something much simpler than, like, buying a dog and, you know, giving the dog away to, you know, get eaten. So that was kind of a messed up little sort of ending moment for the episode. I was like, oh, well, that's pretty crazy. And apparently she tells the other girl, who I just can't remember her name. I never remember her name. But she tells her that Cassidy in the next episode is actually a vampire. So there's a lot to see in this next one that I'm really excited for. But I certainly enjoyed just the craziness of this. Was kind of like there's always moments in episodes where it's just like something's just super silly and over the top. I feel like that was this entire episode. He shot a guy's dick off. He was doing all those crazy headshots where he's shooting people helmets off, and he shot shooting the machete out of a guy's hand, and it flies back with such force that it stabs into another guy's arm. So, or really his shoulder blade on his arm. But there is so much craziness. I was like, this is like all those little crazy moments as just one full episode. And I kind of love that because it was just so silly and crazy and over the top. But really enjoyed it. Definitely looking forward to the next one because not only do we get to possibly see the angels get Eugene out of hell, but we also get to see another flashback of the mysterious silent cowboy guy. And I'm assuming he's going to come back and based on the last time we saw him, he's going to go nuts and like just shoot up a bunch of, bad guys. So excited to see that. Excited to get more about him or something else about him outside of, oh, he fought in the war. Big whoop. Like, clearly there's more to him. So looking forward to getting more info on him. Definitely excited to see really where Jesse goes, because he actually does sign over. Or, well, his plan is to have Guile officially come down before completely giving up the church and everything. So I'm curious to see how that's going to end up playing out, and maybe Quincannon will die somewhere in between, this episode and the episode where he plans on bringing God to church. Because I don't know if they're going to skip the entire week and go maybe Saturday and Sunday where he tries to tell God, like, hey, come to the church and stuff. Because I'm assuming that's his plan, is like, God, come here. But I don't think that's really going to play out the way he wants to. But I also don't think he's going to be giving up his church like everybody thinks right now. So I'm kind of curious where they're going to take it. He still might, which I'd still love to see, because I guess technically he did give it away in this one, and I think that's why he was being driven away, because he technically signed it over in this one. But I don't know. I just feel like something could happen there, and if Quincannon dies, clearly his whole family's gone, so there's no one else that'll take over, unless it's the guy underneath him or whatever. But there's seems to be a lot based on that promo. There seems to be a lot of cool, exciting stuff to see in this next one. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. But of course, want to know what you guys thought about this one. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and I definitely want to know what you guys think is going to happen with. There are a couple of questions for this one. I want to know what you guys think is going to happen with Cassidy when he comes back, because clearly he was saved. Like, Jesse didn't just let him like burn alive, so he did actually use the fire extinguisher on him, and he did kick him out, just like Tulip said. It was like, you actually, kicked him out because you didn't accept him, I guess. So he did actually kind of put him out with the extinguisher, but I feel like that might bring Tulip and Cassidy a bit closer against Jesse, especially when Tulip finds out, that Cassidy wasn't just playing around with like that power, where he's like, he can tell people what to do. She didn't really believe him. He kind of just thought he was saying that, but it might kind of bring them closer together against Jesse's power and how he's not exactly using it the right way, especially when she finds out about Eugene and stuff like that. So I'm curious to know what you guys think might come of that, and I definitely want to know if you guys think the angels will actually be saving Eugene from hell, because that's what it seemed like. Like I said, it was like, oh, we want to go somewhere further south. It might not happen in the very next episode, but I think that's at least their plan to save him, because he is meant to be a main character, which is also why it really surprised me when I thought the one guy killed himself in the trunk, because I was like, I know he's supposed to be a main character. His name's in the title. Like, both their names are in the title, so I'm like, how are they dying? Like, this is crazy to me. But he deafened himself, and Eugene is temporarily in hell. So excited to see where they go with that. But like I said, I want to know what predictions you guys have and what you think will happen, and of course what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.